If you're following along and watching me look for the templates and try to unpack things and working along with me, I've come to a very significant realization recently that tells me why this is so hard for us to see where they had it easier. And I want to talk about that in this video. My name is Dan Paulson, everyone. Welcome to the channel. And I've been going through looking for these templates and how to show them. And I'm struggling. It is very hard. I'm seeing them, but showing them is not an easy thing. And here is something that I realize, okay? A part of my process of learning this is in my imagination, I go there 3,500 years ago. I've spent many hours as a little shepherd boy in the desert years ago trying to figure out what is different about them and their life. And it is incredible. We have so many modern day biases that we bring. We're losing something, and we have to extract ourselves from a kind of thinking. Or no, we don't. We can't. What we have to do is include a different understanding of the way we think that helps us grasp what's going on. Okay, 3,500 years ago, I'm a kid back there. I don't read. I don't write. There's no such thing as books. There's no schools. Education is it's hand selected and in behind closed doors someplace, or a school of teaching that is just personal, one-on-one. People are learning trades or things like that mostly. Once they're old enough to start working, that's what you do. I have robes, raggedy sandals, probably barefoot most of the time. I spend my life alone, mostly. I'll come into town and I'm voracious for wanting to hear stories and things like that. You pick them up your mind, you can remember things, you have stuff going on. You have these stories memorized. If I am looking through Genesis and I'm assuming that these patterns are there and I'm looking for sequences of numbers and things like that because I believe there is an encoded process in here that's teaching me something and I'm trying to learn what that is. There's a lot of repetition happening in here, and analyzing that repetition is what you do. But what I realize is I'll use the computer to search for things. I'll put up something here, and I find something is kind of strange sounding, so I go do a search with a program, a word program from Microsoft here, and I can come up with things that I can't when I read the book linearly. Okay, yeah, back then, it's all verbal. They're memorizing this. They can pull all this up at once. If somebody is saying, how come 50 cubits is one of the things in the ark? And somebody else says, well, 50 righteous appears 4 times down in Sodom and Gomorrah. We don't know. We can't pull that up. We can't pull those things up unless we have it memorized. They had it memorized. We're reading it linearly. There's a big block of things that needs to be playing out in our head in a 3D space. And we're traveling along it like we're on a trail. We're not seeing everything all at once. So it is difficult for us to see what they're doing. Think of this. They had time to reflect, to do this was what they had as their technology. They're doing this. So if they're not talking or singing or playing music or something or sleeping, that this is what you would have as your technology, but we would have it memorized. We do not read, we do not write. We're smart. There are no books anyway. You would sit and listen to people tell stories, and you'd want to hear it multiple times, and you'd be very good at remembering it and recalling it, because that is what we would do. Everybody gets good at what they do, don't they? That is what we would be doing. We would be good at it. We've lost that. I just wanted to say that. I think it's incredibly important for us to understand why we're having difficulty hooking into what they're doing, and we need to look at it in a broader scale. I made a recent video where I talked about going all over the place, and I've realized that's the operating field I'm on. I was looking through something in Joseph Campbell's book, The Return, or the chapter called The Return, The Hero of a Thousand Faces, and I'm not going to recommend this book. I talk about it. It's a personal choice. I don't find it as something that I need for the path that I'm going on right now. But if I was looking at something, trying to see what he had on the refusal of the return, and he's got when the hero quest has been accomplished, through penetration to the source or through the grace of some male or female, human or animal personification, the adventurer still must return with his life transmuting trophy. So it's talking about the story elements, but it's also talking about the human element. If you play it out in the psyche, this is what we're doing. We've made a change, and now we have to return with that change. The full round, the norm of the monomyth, requires that the hero shall now begin the labor of bringing the runes of wisdom, the golden fleece, or his sleeping princess back to the kingdom of humanity, where the boon may rebound to the renewing of the community, the nation, the planet, or the 10,000 worlds. All of those, 10,000 worlds, planet, nation, all of those are held in material that's all over the place. He's doing the same thing. He's got Buddha mentioned in here too, Hindu. He's grabbing things from all over the place to see what's going on or to look at it, but he's still leaving it analogous. I would say now it is time to return to life with the changes that you've made. You're going to re-enter. You had a problem, you've healed, now you're coming back. Do you fit? And, through personal analysis, if we go through this, what I think really this difficulty in returning, the return of there's a return threshold in some stories that is difficult to come back from where you're coming from. And I don't think that is exactly what happens when we play. That's the way the story is held, the way it looks, and the way it plays out in what would be called the monomyth in the physical world. But in our own personal spiritual world, that is something that is very direct. And what it would be is something like, I have an issue, and I have guilt over it. And I have to talk to somebody and say, you know what I did to you, or, here's something that we both know of, and I apologize. I've done some bad things. We have to make amends. We have to do things like that, and that is the part where we are interfacing our issues with the world. That's going to be hard. And there's going to be people, as you go say, I'm sorry I did this, who are going to tell you, I don't care. Get out of here. I don't even want to ever see you again. You still have to do your part, regardless of what they say. That's how this translates into the psyche. The difficulty, the return threshold is hard to cross because of that reason right there. And, well, because you might have to change I used to be this way with this group of people. Now I'm not this way anymore. Now I have to move. I have to quit my job. I have to drop my friends. I have to drop relationships because I no longer am that kind of a person. I now must change and go someplace else. Birds of a feather flock together. When you start changing, you're no longer of that feather. We have to go back to society now and fit back into a place where we may not fit anymore. We've resolved something that other people haven't resolved, and now at some point you're not even aligning with the people you're with. At any rate, I'm getting off subject there again. The thing is that this is what they had. We live with stuff coming in and in and in. We don't fast this to the world. We don't shut off. We don't reflect. We don't contemplate. And these stories were memorized. Think of something you got memorized. You can think of all kinds of pieces and parts. What do you do? Any kind of crafting or automotive repair. Develop things that you're good at. How much of it do you know? And how much in the beginning, when you didn't know, you had to figure things out along the way. That's what we're doing. We're like beginners at this stuff. Well, little kids back then would be sitting down saying, Mister, sit down and let me teach you this stuff. Yeah. But then they would look at us and go, wow, that's fun stuff. Yeah, I'll take that. But now I don't think anymore. Yeah, that's what's happening. If you're on this path, we have to understand that. It's a mental process. And that all the things happening in the world are not self-reflection. Do they lead there? That's what if you're trying to heal, yeah, that's a big thing. But at the same time, yeah, memorization. How about that? Okay, I just wanted to say that. There's difficulty in this that exists for a number of reasons. And we're trying to get back into it. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Love one another. See you in the next video. I added this on the end as another realization as I go along. If you've been following my work, we get to that 7 days. We're looking at that 7 days of creation being a point where we are naked, unashamed in the Garden of Eden, which represents a time in life before we had began experiencing life in a way that we lost our childhood innocence, which is what that represents: letting go, detaching from things, not being connected to the world. When we start living life, we start connecting to everything. We learn, we grasp, we do everything we can. We get to a point where we go, oh, I'm a product of those experiences, and now can I start letting stuff go? That's what the calling is, but that the 7-day period right there represents that. 7 appears, 450 times, 350, an inordinate amount in the Bible, and it kind of shows this here. However, if you go to the end of the first creation story, the 7-day creation, what you see is 7 mentioned 3 times. You know, on the 7th day, God created it. He rested on the 7th day. He saw that everything was good on the 7th day. He says it 3 times. That shows up elsewhere. But you know what they've also done right there? They've just taken that day 7 and turned it also into a 3. So now there's 2 analogs that can be used to represent that same point. 7, right there, and 3 also is there. We get downstream, Jesus, if Jesus is us on the hero's journey, and I say, yeah, it is. It's exactly structured the same way. However, his healing was not. What did we have in the first flood? 40 days, 40 nights, flood, all that kind of stuff happens. 7s are sent along in there. If you go look at it, you'll see 7 pairs of this and that. Those represent clean characteristics. We're starting over again. We've purified now. We're on the other side. We've got our good qualities back. Those have been sent along on the trip. When Jesus goes in, when he is crucified, put into the tomb, okay, what do we have here? We've got an entryway, we've got a doorway into a tomb. We're going into a cave, into the recesses, through a doorway, and staying there for 3 days and then coming out. Instead of, it is still representing the same thing, except that instead of saying he was in there for 7 days, he was in there for 3 days. But 3 represents 7. Make sense? If you go through there, you look for all the 7s and the 3s and things like that, you will find that they're going to represent this same idea. Okay,